do you think that Tibetan traditions are adapting to the Western culture, and if so, should they?
I think it's very much adapting to it, adapting to not necessarily the Western culture, but let's say the modern culture. Modern culture, just like any other culture, offers a lot, of course, offers a lot of possibilities. Possibilities in terms of if used right, if applied just accordingly, I think it can help us, as we can see, help us communicate better, communicate instantly, and reach vast populations within a very short span of time. And therefore, I mean, that communication is everything, yes? That communication will help us achieve whatever we want. If we want to achieve, medical breakthrough, economic balance, whatever we like. I mean, we can pretty much achieve anything through having a proper communication system, and the modernity offers that. But of course, if it is not used wisely, then it could have all of the negative consequences, such as then it could bring hunger, famine, war, whatnot, all the things that we see in various parts of the world nowadays, and not just a few times, but more rapidly and in succession. Not necessarily, of course, we don't name it a world war or such, but without having to name it, it's a constant war, yes, of all kinds of crises. So modernity, adapting to modernity, I mean, I could see that many of, my fellow Tibetans having sort of adapted to it, just like I think many other cultures, I think. Yeah. But what I don't know is how well they're adapting to it. Yes. Meaning, are they adapting to a certain, only to a portion of that modernity? And if it is, what part of it, what portion of all the modernity? Because often modernity offers that idea of being able to achieve something very quick, very fast. Mm-hmm. So everything is a sort of, you can fix anything very fast. But if it is just that, then are we doing it because it gives us satisfaction? It fulfills sort of, I don't know, something. I mean, are we content with it finally at the end of the day? Because if you're not content with it, no matter how fast it could fix things, like it could help achieve things, it will never be enough. And that we will want more and more. It will be as if you can achieve something, complete one set of errands in one day, and where it took maybe months. In the past, of course, messengers had to write for days and days, yes. Whereas nowadays it's just instant. If that's the case, now what is the next step? What is beyond that horizon? And so, therefore, if you're not content with it, then I think we are in great danger. Yeah. Then what happens is that yesterday I just briefly said a few things in Tibetan here, and what I was saying there was that we must not lose our heritage, and because we are not known for many things actually, yeah, because of the remoteness of the place where we lived. We don't have much vegetation. We don't have, of course, we have lots of minerals, but we we don't have the real need to sort of harness those minerals and turn into things. Population was very small, and the only fascinating thing, with the greatest pastime was none other than practice. Beside that, maybe then of course not for daily, not to say survival, but livelihood was of course then maybe livestock, of course, and then maybe if there are suitable environments, then maybe a bit of farming, but not much. Just enough so that one could live quite comfortably, enough. And then as long as we are able to combat the cold and have enough to eat, then that was it. There was not much, entertainment, So if it was day, it was day. If it was night, it was night. Whereas over here, day means you can sleep in. Even if it's night, then you can still just go about it as if it's day, yes? I think many of the monks and people who came, I think, over here in the West during my predecessor's time, I think they were all very fascinated. And they said that, my goodness, out here, even in the nights, you still have daylight, artificial daylight, they said. So, so we basically have not much, but what we are really known for, ever since the arrival of Buddhism in our lands, was then the practice of that. And so much so that it somehow grew into everyone. It rubbed into everyone, every home, every family. If a child began to speak, immediately that child will know how to recite various mantras and scriptures and so on. And sort of their daily life sort of grew around that. And so therefore, I think in a way, the modern world or the 19th century world, starting from there, I think what they were really fascinated about Tibet was that, I think. That we had very actually little means to actually to survive and live. Yet we were somehow kind of content. And they were fascinated about that and to understand why, how come we are able to live like that. It's almost like sort of finding, what I find fascinating is like, for example, like for example, birds like eagles, vultures, they're able to nest in the most sort of vertical environments, yes, where you just cannot think of nesting. I mean, if the egg just tipped a little bit, that's it. I mean, of course, they have huge span of wings, and so therefore, they are very strong, yes. By accident, if they flap their wing in a little wrong direction and just, oops, that was it. And they don't have many eggs. Yeah, but somehow they're able to live like that. It's like the snow leopards, which are very scarce now. So in the same way, I think there was some sort of fascination about that, I think. And fine, why not? Yes, why not? It is interesting. It is a very interesting sort of environment to be fascinated with. And we didn't know much why we were so fascinated for. But nevertheless, we were fascinated in another way, sort of the modernity, But my goodness, there are things that are sort of very magical, things that never existed before. For example, we can. I still have of course, nowadays it's pretty much a daily routine in a way that we all fly in and out, yes. But if you really think about it, hundreds of luggages are flying in the air, yes? in a metal tube. Hundreds of bags of peanuts, chocolates, Coca-Cola, water. It's like, have you seen that movie, God Must Be Crazy? This you have to watch, yes. Yes. It's something like that, particularly with the thing with the Coca-Cola bottle. It's something like that. You know? It's quite fascinating, actually, to know that you are actually flying. So we were also equally fascinated with modernity. But the risk is that with the fascination with the modernity is that then we could lose our identity, our heritage. Basically, I think it's the contentment that we had for a long, long time. And suddenly we are acquiring a taste for modernity of, there are so many things to try. There are so many things, so many flavors and so many textures that one can experience. But once you know that there is no limit to it, then suddenly you feel that, I'm not living up to my sort of standard in a way. And that and as a result of it, then you begin to give away the contentment little by little, yes. So therefore, from one generation to another, if you observe, each generation of Tibetans lose a little bit more. Yeah. Now, for example, now we have, these are two different generations, and I'm another. So each of us, each generation, we lose a little bit more and more. Yeah. We lose a little bit more of the contentment. For example, I become a little bit uncomfortable when I know that there is no, cell phone reception. Because I think it was a year ago that I was in Ladakh. Of course, it's just like homecoming in a way, because the environment is very, very similar to Tibet. The environment is very raw, very bare, almost like as if it's without clothes, because there is no tree, there's no vegetation, so therefore it's like as if the whole plain and the whole scenery is stripped of its clothing. And the air is, of course, very dry and very fine, very thin. And of course the evening skies are beautiful, of course. But nevertheless, as you go more and more towards the east, then you begin, suddenly you come to a point where there is no reception at all. And then you become a little bit sort of disconnected, really. You can feel a lack of contentment, actually. Yes. And so I was fascinated with myself, because normally I wouldn't bother about those things, but then I could see there that the modernity has got me, you know. Mm-hmm. So like that, I think we are adapting more than we ought to, I think. Yeah. And as a result of it, there's a great risk of losing our heritage, of our practice of contentment. And I think it's not just Tibetans, I think it's the same with every culture, actually. Every culture had their own sort of a way of appreciating what they were known for. Yeah. If I'm correct, you were all great explorers those days, yes? Yes. You had a very strong sense of identity of your own culture. But then with the modernity, then we all become, uniformed. we all become like one of those objects in a supermarket, you know. Yeah. Everything's labeled, everything looks the same. Of course, now we all have to sort of make sure that we don't get bored, so therefore now we put lots of descriptions on each box, you know? So that we feel that okay, there is some originality there. But I mean, one thing I would say is it's kind of very tiring. It's very frustrating to some point that from one country to another you have to change the electricity plug. The most frustrating part. Every time. Yesterday I went through the same frustration. So I had to ask for a set of plugs. But at the same time, I feel that maybe it's a good thing, you know, because then at least you can feel that okay, now I'm here. You know? I'm not just anywhere, but I'm somewhere now. Yeah. So on that part, maybe it's a good thing. So like that, you know. Mm. So it's difficult to say how helpful this modernity is. If used right, I think it's great. Yeah. But if not used right, it can swallow all of us up, and very rapidly. Yes. Maybe it's a good thing also, if it's rapid. Then we will go back to Stone Age.